Texas football is officially out of the college football playoff. Star linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. declares for the NFL draft, while Trey Owens and CJ Baxter hit the transfer portal. Meanwhile, Texas women's basketball is skyrocketing, and Texas men's basketball is struggling to keep it together. And Texas volleyball moves on in the national championship. All this and more on College Press Box. Welcome and good evening. Welcome back to College Press Box. I am Giorgy Ruiz, hosting with Tyler Strempel tonight. But before we get started, we want to remind you that College Press Box is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. Well, like we said, Texas men's basketball had a highly anticipated matchup this Wednesday night with big names like Steve Sarkisian, Mac Brown, Michael Taft, and even their former head coach, Rodney Terry, in attendance. The Texas Longhorn has everything set for a star-studded night. Instead, Texas men's basketball fell flat, with the student section emptying before halftime as Texas trailed by 20. Let's send it to Nolan Cray to break down his package and see what went wrong.
Texas head coach Sean Miller wants the Moody Center to become a fortress, but for that to happen, Texas has to defend it. And tonight, Texas didn't defend much of anything, leading to an 88-69 loss in its first real home test of the season, putting the team at an early crossroads. It may have been cold outside, but Virginia was hot all night long in the Moody Center, lighting it up on the offensive side of the ball. The Cavaliers scored 88 points on 54% shooting from the field and a whopping 50% from beyond the arc. The Longhorns had zero answers for the new-look Virginia offense, which also affected its own offensive rhythm. Overall, it was a night that had Sean Miller and his team very disappointed, and they're going to have to rebound quick to get their season back on the guardrails.
Their offense overwhelmed our defense, and it's becoming a pattern with us. We're too easy to score on. We have to fix that. We have to be better. We have to do things that we're capable of doing to fix. And we have to have just more of an inner fight and toughness on that side of the ball to be able to defend the shot, challenge the shot, rebound the ball, defend the man in front of you. A lot of where we go from here starts with that word, defense. This is a moment of truth for our season where we have to be able to learn from it and improve that part of our team.
New team or not, losing at home in that kind of fashion is simply unacceptable. Now Texas has to rebound quick because a date with the number 5 UConn Huskies is just over a week away. And if they show up to that contest in a similar manner to tonight, it could get ugly real fast. Saying goodnight from the Moody Center, I'm Nolan Clay with TSTV Sports.
Great work, Nolan. Now for more analysis on this Texas team, let's send it over to Tyler.
Thanks, Giorgy. I'm here with Grabiel Silva to talk Texas men's basketball after what was a disappointing showing last time out. Welcome to the show, Grabiel. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Now that the football team is out of the playoffs, it's time for us to shift our focus to Sean Miller's squad in the Moody Center.
Absolutely. So going into the winter break, how do you think the Horns are going to fare over the next few weeks while the students are gone? And are there any games you're watching out for?
Well, it is final season coming up soon, and I know I don't have any, but the men's basketball team will definitely be tested when they head to Hartford, Connecticut to take on a top 5 team in the UConn Huskies. After last week's 19-point loss to Virginia, Texas will need to play their best game of the season against UConn, and even then, it might not be enough for them to overcome the Huskies on their home court. After that, the men's team will get a couple easy wins against Lemoyne and Maryland Eastern Shore. Definitely not the best competition, but they should feel good about themselves heading into SEC play against Mississippi State and then traveling to Tennessee and Alabama before playing Vanderbilt when school is back for the semester. It's a lackluster winter break for the team, but if they can pull off some huge wins, it might change the outlook of the season.
Yeah, gotta hope that there's some good wins in there as we get closer into that conference play that's going to start as the students come back. Where do you see the Horns slotting in the SEC standings?
Yeah, well, from what I saw in my research, Texas is predicted to finish around 10th in the SEC. They play a lot of tough opponents right out of the gate, like the aforementioned Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Alabama. They will also play Vandy, Kentucky, and A&M in the month of January. It's not an easy road for this squad led by Sean Miller. If they're able to pull off some wins at the Moody Center, this team could find itself in the postseason. I think they'll end up finishing in the middle of the pack in the conference because these teams ahead of them are just way too good. But for Sean Miller's first season at the helm, if they show improvement throughout the season, the outlook would look great in the future.
Totally agree. And now, so far into the season, what players do you think will continue to contribute heavily for the Horns for any success in the rest of the season?
Well, the veteran presence of Jordan Pope, Kendall Weaver, and Tremont Mark will help this team out tremendously if they're able to step up their game once conference play rolls around. They are returners who have a lot of experience who can definitely help out this squad as the schedule gets into its hardest parts in SEC play. Another key player is going to be Matas Vokataitis. He is one of the better bigs that Texas has, and he can definitely be more physical compared to Caden Shedra, who is currently enjoying his time in Israel. Matas can definitely help this team when the big, stronger players in the SEC starts coming to town, and I'll keep an eye out on his improvement throughout the year. Overall, the season is a learning period for the Horns, and there will be road bumps. Don't expect Sean Miller to field an Elite 8/Final Four team so quickly. This program can only go up under Coach Miller, and I'm excited to see how it goes.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Solid analysis, Grabiel and Tyler. And when we return, we'll take a look into this Texas women's basketball performance last week, heading into matchup against a familiar foe right here on College Press Box.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Texas women's basketball continued their dominant start to the season. Larry Liu and Bradson Swick were at the Moody Center for their matchup against Prairie View A&M. Let's take a look.
Texas women's basketball is in full swing, and if there is one word I had to describe the start of the season for the Longhorns, it would be electric. And that energy is buzzing again tonight as they host Prairie View A&M right here at the Moody Center. The Longhorns seem to be getting into the rhythm early, going undefeated at 9-0, and are looking to bring that record to double digits. And to get this game started, it was Prairie View A&M who held their own in the first half. Sophomore guard CJ Wilson was on fire, scoring 13 points for the Lady Panthers. Texas, meanwhile, has a slow start, only shooting 37% in the first half. The offense might have been cold, but the defense definitely wasn't. The Longhorns locked in on the other end, keeping the Lady Panthers from taking control. Brea Cunningham anchored the effort with 14 points, helping Texas build a 40-25 lead heading into halftime. Now here's where the blowout becomes official. In the third quarter alone, Texas completely outscored Prairie View A&M 32-7. Brea Cunningham continued her dominance in the paint with aggressive drives and clean finishes. Madison Booker and Kayla Oldacre added crucial points to keep the offense flowing. Texas maintained its fiery defense, and Prairie View seemed to struggle near the hoop. By the fourth quarter, the game is well in hand. Oldacre leads the scoring with 15 more points, and the Longhorns reach triple digits in the last 30 seconds of the game, putting the final score at 101-42. The spotlight for this game belongs to Brea Cunningham, who set a new career high with 30 points, capping off a dominant night for the undefeated Longhorns.
I think it's how hard we work, how dedicated everybody is, how hard we practice, and how hard we play. So I think a mix of all those things is why we're playing so well right now.
The Longhorns now look ahead to Wednesday, where they will be traveling to UTRGV for their next game. Reporting for TSTV Sports, I'm Bradson Swick.
Great work, Larry and Bradston. Now let's go to Giorgy, who's with our next analyst, to take a closer look at this team.
Thanks, Tyler. I'm here with Raymond Gorvie to talk more about this Texas women's basketball team and how they've been performing as of late. Welcome to the show, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing good, Giorgy. Ready to talk about some Texas women's basketball.
Well, let's get right into it. Well, the Longhorns picked up yet another ranked win versus number 11 UNC. What is the thing that impressed you the most about this Longhorn win?
Texas right now is playing like the national championship contenders that they were hyped up to be coming into this season, especially as preseason favorites to win the SEC. But in the win against number 11 ranked UNC, what stood out to me the most was the performance of sophomore guard Jordan Lee. The second-year play had another career-high night with 22 points to lead the Longhorns to a victory. Also her second time this year that she broke her previous career high. And she shot 10 for 16 from the field while also shooting 40% from behind the arc. Texas now has their fourth ranked win of the season with the third in the top 15.
Next up for Texas is a road game versus UTRGV before playing the number 12 Baylor in Fort Worth. What must the Longhorns do in order to get the victory against a former Big 12 foe?
A big reason for the Longhorns' success this season is the role play of their bigs this season. Vic Strafer struck gold in the transfer portal, landing Brea Cunningham from Arizona and Taya Sidbury from Boston College. Cunningham is coming off a dominant double-double performance with 30 points and 10 rebounds against Prairie View A&M, and Sidbury also providing 10 points on the night also. Oldacre provided 17 points off the bench in a performance that was all about the inside play for Texas. In upcoming matchups against UTRGV, and most importantly, number 12 ranked Baylor in the beautiful city of Fort Worth, Texas. Some might say the best city in Texas. I'm not saying that. Other people are just saying that. But when we're talking about a program like Baylor, you're looking at it with a program with lots of history, especially now under LSU coach Kim Monkley, where they won 3 national titles in her tenure with the program. This will be a big test for the Longhorns, as Baylor are now in line to have their best season since the departure of Kim Monkley. In the past, Baylor has had the Longhorns number, but now under Vic Schaefer this season, the Texas women's basketball team is a different program. For Texas, with the players out of play, Cunningham, Sidbury, and Oldacre, especially most improved Justice Carlton, will be very important, best to beat a historical program like the Lady Bears.
And then with a few games left in non-con, what are some early pros and cons about the Longhorns leading into conference play?
With this Texas team, there is lots of things that they do very well. They're not only one of the best teams in the country, but they also have the best resume in all of women's college basketball. The Longhorns are a top 10 team in the country in point differential, which is crazy with the amount of ranked wins that they have already in the season. They're 7th in the nation in points per game while being 8th in field goal percentage. And on a true non-con team, something they really can't control is that in years past, it's the injury bug. They lost players like Roy Harmon a few years back, and last year with Aaliyah Moore. And last season, and players like Kyla Oldacre, Breonna Preston, and freshman standout Aaliyah Crump, and new transfers like Ashton Judge are all currently of missed time due to injury. The Longhorns are a really deep team, as you can see, as they are off to an undefeated start with a 7-player rotation for the majority of the season. It will be key for Coach Schaefer and his staff to balance the team's minutes throughout conference play and reserve his players for a key run in March.
Well, of course, Vic Schaefer doesn't stop, even if the players are up by a lot, and that's exactly what makes this Texas team. And we definitely look forward to seeing how Texas will shape up against Baylor. But that'll do it for here. Thank you for joining us again, Raymond, and we'll send it back to you, Tyler.
Thank you, Giorgy and Raymond. When we come back, our very own Tyler Moss will preview and analyze this year's college football playoff bracket so you don't have to. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to College Press Box. The college football playoff bracket was released this past Sunday, and the Texas Longhorns did not make the cut. And even more surprisingly, neither did the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now let's head it over to Tyler Moss to look at the playoff picture.
Thanks, Giorgy. This year's committee did have to make some difficult decisions throughout their process, and it left college football fans and teams with many questions. As Giorgy mentioned, Texas and Notre Dame were both left out of the playoff, as well as BYU and Vanderbilt, with all 4 of those teams trying to make compelling arguments towards the end of the season. The committee also had some firsts as well. Alabama became the first 3-loss team to make the playoffs. This year's bracket features 2 Group of 5 teams in the American champion Tulane and in the Sun Belt champion James Madison. And the ACC champion was also left out entirely. There will be a lot of debate about what teams should have been in or out when the first round of games gets played, but for now, there's nothing to do but wait. Last year, the bracket featured some wildly different dilemmas and matchups. I previewed last year's bracket playoff as well, and it didn't quite go the way I predicted it. We watched all of those home teams win their playoff games, and then we watched all of the first-round byes lose their quarterfinal matchups. All of that is in the past, so now it's time to look at the present and see if any similar trends might emerge. We'll take a look at the bracket in a clockwise order, starting with our 8-9 matchup, Alabama at Oklahoma. This matchup is one that happened a mere 4 weeks ago at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and the first of 2 rematches in the first round. Oklahoma won 23-21 the first time around, and I think this matchup will go pretty similarly. Oklahoma's defense bent but didn't break in Tuscaloosa, and they forced 3 turnovers, helping out an offense that just wasn't quite firing on all cylinders. We just watched Alabama be held to a team total of -3 rushing yards in the SEC championship, and having to go to Norman won't do this team any favors. It'll be a good watch, but I think Oklahoma will pull away in the end once more. Moving over to our 7-10 matchup, Miami, who barely snuck into the playoff picture on Selection Sunday, goes on the road to Kyle Field to play Texas A&M. Miami lost twice in ACC play to SMU and Louisville and was on the wrong end of a 5-way tie for second in the conference. A&M, on the other hand, went undefeated all the way through the season in conference play until losing to Texas in the final week and ended up at the bottom of a four-way tie for first place due to their conference opponents' winning percentage being a whopping 28% combined. For our first upset of the playoff, I'm going to take Miami to go get the win in College Station. I think Miami will come in with a full head of steam after being left out for so long, and will throw a sucker punch to an A&M team that lost to the one SEC opponent that remained ranked at the end of the season. Miami also caught a bit of a break by getting the 11 a.m. kickoff in Kyle Field, so I think they'll take the win. Down to our 6-11 matchup, we have Tulane visiting Ole Miss in Oxford. The second rematch of the first round features what was a 35-point blowout back in September. I really don't see this one going much differently, even if the Rebels are Kiffinless. The talent gap between the two teams may just be too big, and Ole Miss will be able to shut down Retzlaff and the Green Wave just as they did before. Now for our final matchup in the first round, the 5-12 game features James Madison visiting Oregon. Our second group of 5 team will have their hands full with this Oregon team, and JMU lost to Louisville by 2 possessions, one of the 2 Power 4 teams that they played. I don't see them being able to go to Autzen Stadium and take on Dan Lanning's Ducks in a competitive fashion, regardless of how impressive the season they had was. Now we can look at our potential matchups for the quarterfinal rounds in our first set of New Year's Six Bowls. Oklahoma would face the buzzsaw that is known as Indiana, the lone undefeated team in college football. This Rose Bowl matchup would be a tough one for Oklahoma, who has been built on the strength of their defense. Brent Venables and company would have to find a way to slow us down Heisman-likely Fernando Mendoza, whose team is more battle-tested this year as opposed to the squad that we saw in Happy Valley last year. Mendoza and the Hoosiers might just be too much for the Sooners to handle, as their defense has also found ways to shut down Oregon and Ohio State this year. I think they have no issues with Mateer and the Oklahoma offense, and Indiana will advance to the semis. Over in the Cotton Bowl, Miami would face Big Ten runner-up Ohio State. Ohio State looked unstoppable all year until facing Indiana, but I think they'll return to form in the playoffs. They had a significant portion of the stadium filled when they played Texas there last year, and I think they'll have another sizable fan advantage over Miami. This will help the younger quarterback Sayan in his first postseason action, and as long as he has Jeremiah Smith to throw to, I think the Buckeyes always have a chance. I have them winning this matchup and sending Carson Beck on his way out of the college football world. The Sugar Bowl would feature a pair of SEC teams in our third rematch of a regular season game. Ole Miss and Georgia would face off down in New Orleans, and this is where I think the lack of their full coaching staff might hurt the Rebels. We've seen Kirby Smart outcoach the best of the best, and it would definitely show in this matchup. The Georgia defense demolished Alabama's offense, and I think would have an easy pickings on the Rebels, whose offense may look like a ship without a rudder. The Bulldogs' offense will just need to be a net positive to win, and they've had no problems achieving that at all this season. And for our final quarterfinal game, Oregon and Texas Tech would face off in the Orange Bowl. I think this is the most interesting matchup in this round, as the Tech's defense will need to figure out this Oregon offense. Oregon is currently 1-1 against ranked teams, with their one win being against 8-4 Iowa, who's way back in the 20s. I'm not sure how they stayed in the rankings, but that's where they are, so it counts. I've seen this Tech defense twice in person against a first-year starter, and I think that they can do the same thing against Oregon's Dante Moore, who played less than good in the team's loss against Indiana. The Tech defense will be able to put the team in scoring scenarios early, helping them advance to the next round. So we've now set our semifinal matchups, and contrary to last year's actual results, I have all of the first-round byes advancing. Indiana would face Texas Tech off in the Peach Bowl to get us started. I've talked about all these teams and their strengths already, and I just think Indiana's strong offense is better than Tech's strong defense. Coach Cignetti will get the Hoosiers into the final, sending Texas Tech and their defense home. I think it would be a low-scoring affair, but Indiana will have enough firepower to push through. And our other semifinal on the other side of the bracket is Ohio State and Georgia in the Fiesta Bowl. These two teams have played each other exactly twice in history, and the most recent occurrence was New Year's Eve in 2022, where Ohio State missed the game-winning field goal attempt right as the clock struck midnight. I think Georgia keeps the overall record unblemished, as Sayan and the Ohio State offense is just not quite experienced to beat this Georgia team. They've played and beaten some of the best, and it would be able to do it once more. So now with the national championship on the line, Indiana and Georgia would meet in Miami. Both of these teams are well coached, proven winners, and full of talented playmakers. It would be a historic matchup, and I'm going with Indiana making program history. The national championship would be the final piece in Indiana's storybook season, and if Indiana's defense can hold up enough to allow their offense to win the shootout. So there you have it. That's my completed bracket. There's a very real chance that whoever does this segment next year on College Press Box can look back at this and laugh, or a very real chance that this will hold up through it all. That's why we watch the games. That'll do it for me in college football until the postseason starts. Giorgy, I'll give it back to you.
Great work, Tyler. An amazing analysis. And when we return to College Press Box, we'll take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports and see what's ahead. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Let's take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports. The Longhorns fought hard in this year's All-State SEC volleyball tournament where they beat the 14-seeded Ole Miss and the 2-seeded Texas A&M, but in the championship against SEC powerhouse Kentucky, they led 2-0. Kentucky ended up sweeping the final 3 sets, handing the Horns an agonizing defeat in the SEC championship. The Horns are now in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA volleyball tournament after beating Florida A&M and Penn State, and will play Indiana in the Austin Regional Final on December 12th.
The Texas Longhorns were named the second most watched college football team in the nation this season. No surprise with a big name like Arch Manning in the spotlight, everyone tuned in to see if he would fail or succeed. Regardless, everyone was watching this Texas offense.
Texas men's golfer Christian Mass earned an exemption into this year's DP World Tour Hero Dubai Desert Classic in January. He'll get the opportunity to play in the tournament after working his way to the number 5 amateur in the world and number 2 in the PGA University Class of 2026 rankings. Previous amateurs to earn an exemption into this event include Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau.
Now let's take a look at this week in Longhorn sports. On Wednesday, we have women's basketball traveling to the Valley at 6:30 on ESPN. And then we have on Friday, men's basketball takes on UConn, a very anticipated matchup, 7 p.m. on Fox. Then the Texas volleyball team will take on Indiana at 11 a.m. on ESPN here in Gregory Stadium in Austin, Texas. And on Sunday, the women's basketball will travel to Baylor in Fort Worth at 12 p.m. to take on the Bears.
And that concludes the final episode of College Press Box for this semester. Thank you for tuning in each week along with our other shows, College Crossfire and the Want to Know Sports Show. Be sure to follow our coverage on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube at TSTV Sports. And a big thank you to our analysts, everyone in Master Control, our executive producer, Kendall Ungar, and all of our reporters here at TSTV Sports. I'm Tyler Strempel. She is Giorgy Ruiz. And until next time, we'll see you in 2026. Thank you for watching and have a great night.